I recently watched The Chris D'Elia Problem, a documentary put out by comedian Kyle Anderson. In it, some pretty extraordinary claims are made about Chris and his behavior after being canceled. These claims, the one about his actions after being canceled, after having apologized, are the centerpiece of this documentary. They are the sole reason this documentary even exists. And there's just one problem. There's no evidence for them in this documentary. In this video, I will show you how the documentary carelessly glosses over the details to justify publishing these outrageous allegations. So what are these extraordinary claims? 1. That Chris never changed anything about his behavior after the apology and continues to have relationships with various women. 2. That Chris wanted to start a sex cult. 3. That Chris had one of the subjects of the video grooming women to be his sexual partners. 4. That Chris was trying to start a harem. It should be noted here that all of these outrageous claims, every single one of these new claims about Chris and his life post-cancellation, are being made by a single individual. So with no one to corroborate these outrageous allegations, you would think that the documentary should have some pretty solid proof to publish these claims. Kyle says he has exactly that.
And I can already hear you saying, Kyle, you have to have some sort of proof for these allegations, which I think I legally need to say are allegations. But I do have some proof. You see, Chris went on the record and claimed,
I can certainly say for me, if it's not the blue check mark on Instagram messaging you back, that shit's not me.
So what I would need was, like, if Chris was dumb enough to, create a new Snapchat just to call one of his victims that was talking on Twitter in an attempt at damage control and beg her to delete her allegations. That'd be insane.
I don't give a fuck. I'm just... It's nice to hear you being a person, like I said.
I just don't know what to do from here.
Well, we can keep talking if you want. And if you don't mind, deleting that stuff would definitely help me with people sending me death threats and shit.
I don't want to delete everything because it's so infuriating to have people tell you that something you experienced, something you went through, didn't happen.
We can talk about it from now on.
So if we can't trust a single thing Chris D'Elia has told us so far, if we can't trust what he's doing right now, how do we trust what he's done with underage girls?
This is the single piece of proof for these allegations. A video, allegedly from well after Chris's apology, of him talking to someone who claims they were dating Chris well into 2022. And because of this single bit of proof, the documentary can support all these allegations that only this one person is making. We can trust this as proof because Kyle has confirmed when this all happened.
Yeah, that was the only time he had called me until when we broke up. He called to apologize after I had started posting things on anonymous accounts.
Jasmine bravely took to Twitter at a time where no other victims were coming forward. And having just left D'Elia's cult, she was passionately posting some of the details of her story to Twitter. However, a few weeks ago, Chris D'Elia created a new Snapchat account in an attempt to get her to take down her new allegations. These are recordings of that call.
I don't know. I don't get how you can say that you cared about me or any of the other people that... I just don't get it, and I just want to understand.
I don't know. I mean, I thought that, Can you show me where you are? I mean, I don't ever want people feeling bad about themselves. Like, you know that, don't you?
I don't feel like I do, because, again, there's so many things that, like, you're saying now, like, oh, I didn't know that was the case, but, like, dude, I cried to you about the same things over and over, and Like, you knew what was going on.
Now, you might be saying that those could be old recordings, but in these tapes, they talk about how Chris would obsess over her weight and have her measure herself and weigh herself. This is mentioned in her posts, so these recordings sort of timestamp themselves.
Wait, what?
This is mentioned in her posts, so these recordings sort of timestamp themselves.
Anytime you create a file, video file, audio file, text file on your computer or on your phone, it comes with a timestamp. It has a creation date. When was this video made again?
However, a few weeks ago, Chris D'Elia created a new Snapchat account in an attempt to get her to take down her new allegations.
So he's claiming he has a video created 2 weeks prior to him putting this together, and instead of a timestamp, he's offering a tweet, including a topic in their conversation as a timestamp. To me, the logical conclusion here is he's offering this lame explanation because he can't actually confirm when the video was made. If you remember in the video, Chris is asking this woman to delete some posts because he's getting death threats. How does Kyle know that the posts Chris is mentioning weren't deleted? How is this in any way, quote, basically a timestamp? Another thing to note here, Kyle is claiming to have a bunch of videos that he doesn't want to bore us with. I would think it's safe to assume that none of them are more salacious than asking someone to delete some stuff to help with death threats. And one can only assume those videos mysteriously have no timestamps that corroborate this woman's story as well. Also, let's go back to the beginning of that video for a second.
Yeah, that was the only time he had called me until when we broke up. He called to apologize after I had started posting things on anonymous accounts.
The lead-in to this video is the woman claiming Chris is calling her about some things she posted to anonymous accounts, plural. And the post being referenced as a timestamp is clearly not anonymous. This poor explanation for a timestamp doesn't even align with what she's saying. Keep in mind, this is the sole piece of proof, the only justification for publishing some wild accusations about Chris. Now, there's no way for us to know when this was created. Also, multiple anonymous accounts? Now, maybe that just means she was really wanting to get the word out, and so she created a couple of fake accounts to corroborate what she was saying. But also, she created a couple of fake people, it seems, to corroborate what she was saying. That's problematic for what she's saying, but it's also problematic for other women who were brave enough to say some pretty vulnerable things about their experiences with Chris online. Now, let's fast forward a little bit in that video to the part that made me think, I think I should make a video about this. Despite the fact that I'm obviously awful at editing and creating these sorts of things.
I don't want to delete everything because it's so infuriating to have people tell you that something you experienced, something you went through didn't happen. And having that conversation with Kristen.
Wait, what? For those of you who don't know, Kristen is Chris's wife. You're telling me Jasmine's had a conversation with Kristen where she explained the sex cult, the cheating, the underage girls, all of it, and yet Kristen is ignoring it?
Now, this same person's story and this poorly justified proof is being used to call into question the character of Chris's wife, Kristen. This is what prompted me to make this video. Kristen is not really a public figure, and by all accounts is a victim of Chris's addiction. Put yourself in her shoes. Imagine that you've been through a traumatic experience, where your partner had multiple moments of infidelity. Now imagine that someone comes along and makes a documentary without any proof that accuses you of choosing to ignore your partner's sex cult, harem, etc. Kyle says he's doing this because he believes it's the right thing to do, and I believe that he believes that. But publishing these allegations, while fudging the details, isn't the right thing to do, in my estimation. Either Kyle doesn't have any proof, or he has something that actually proves when the video happened, and is irresponsible enough not to include it in the documentary. At this point, I imagine you're asking what other explanation there might be for this video and these allegations, so I'm going to offer one. Isn't it probable that the reason that nobody is corroborating even the least sensational allegations here, that Chris continued to be in a relationship with women other than his wife well after being canceled, is because this woman is lying about everything after Chris being canceled? And that perhaps Chris has actually been doing the work of recovery? Couldn't this video have been made around the time that he was canceled, when he was getting a ton of death threats, as he mentions in the video? Could it be that Kristen had a conversation with this person around that time? Because that's a very common thing for someone who has been cheated on to do. It's a way to rebuild trust in a relationship by confirming that one's partner is being transparent about their indiscretions. Isn't that more plausible than a sex cult, a harem, getting someone to groom other women, etc.? What do you think?